So as most of you know, I'm all about go and not really going slow. That's why we put a big block inside of this thing. Also, bars. And I ain't got no brakes, but we're gonna fix that today. Also, for those of you who don't know, we're getting ready for the Sema burnout competition, aka the horsepower rodeos. Let's get to it. So here's how we're gonna do this. We're just gonna grab this little piece, weld it to the back of the spindle, grab a caliper, put it right here, make sure that the brakes all work and it stops, and then we'll put it on the ground and I'll go test it on a hill just to make sure that it really stops. But this thing is a burnout car. It's not really meant to be going 100 miles per hour. I know I got a lot of comments like, oh, when you're doing a top speed run, this thing's not gonna stop because those are so small. It's not gonna be doing like 50 miles per hour. I would never wanna do 50 miles per hour in something like this because it's way too small. But burnouts, where the tires are doing that, I'm okay with. And actually the tires with the calculated ratio are gonna be doing about 120 miles per hour. That's about what I calculated to it. So this thing's gonna do some killer burnouts. So now we're gonna get into the part that we all love to do about our project cars, take it apart to put it back together. All we gotta do is just give a little screwdriver, pop this little thing off. There's a nut inside of here that we take off, take this entire piece off, and then we'll weld our little bracket on the back. Oh, and don't worry, we're gonna be using only the most gentlest, finest tools we can find. A sledgehammer. But when you're doing this, just try to keep your area and your hands clean. That's why I got gloves on and I got a nice towel on the ground, just because you don't want to get any contaminants in here in your nice lube system, because then this system will last not even half as long if there's a bunch of crap inside of here. So I like to lay out a nice little blue towel, then I can get everything all nice and situated, and then we can get started. Now that our spindle's off, we can kind of grind all this down, make sure it's all nice and shiny, and weld up our disc brakes. So now that that's all ground down, all we need to do now is just do the same thing for the outer ring, and then we'll just lift it up a little bit, and then put our little piece right here, and then should be done. Just so I'm not taking off too much material, I'm gonna use my little disc right here rather than a grinder, just so that it gets it nice and where we need it without taking off too much. Now that I've got everything taken down and where I need it to be, all we're gonna do is just grab my lathe. I have a little X-Acto needle thing, and then we're gonna make sure that these are dead level, and then we'll weld them up. You poor dusty thing. Let's get all this crap off of you. Now that this girl is up here, all we're gonna need to do is just get her mounted up, get the little disc, put it on there, hopefully get it balanced and perfect, and then weld it up. After I just got her all put back together and set up, she is literally off by just barely a hair. I mean, that's literally like a hair. I can spin it a little faster and you can see there is barely any, if any, movement in this piece, and especially since these are going to be going maybe 10 miles per hour at top speed, that's gonna make zero difference. So I'm gonna get this piece welded up, and then we're gonna have a rotor done. All I've done here is got this little piece of metal pressed up against the edge of this little spindle right here, and that's gonna keep this, hopefully, as flat as I can possibly get it, and then we're just gonna tack weld it, spin it again, and if it's fully good, then we'll just kinda go slowly around so as not to warp anything, and then we'll test our brakes. This side is all tacked up and mocked up. All we need to do now is just build a mounting bracket for this caliper, and our brakes will be done. Obviously we're gonna do the other side as well, but I just wanna test it on one side first. Now all we need to do now is just get a little piece of cardboard, make out a bracket for this, weld it on there, and there's our brakes. Which cardboard sacrifice am I taking out now? You'll be the sacrifice. Here's our little mounting bracket made out of cardboard. It's not gonna be this big, obviously, because this wouldn't work. And then I'm gonna turn this thing down and do a nice little circle. But all we need to do now is just make this out of metal, and then we can finally test our brakes. So I'm man enough to admit when I'm wrong. Now these brakes did work. They did work. But if you really grabbed it and you really wanted to move it with both hands, you could do it. So I decided to go, instead of 5 inches, I think 12 should be able to stop it. Here's how we're gonna do this. This is a steel rim, so I'm just gonna grind this down right here. I'm gonna place this inside of here, weld it up, or I'm just gonna go straight with the spacer. But if we do it this way, I'm gonna go with this, then I'm gonna weld my spacer up to here, about 2 to 3 inches. Then we're gonna grab our disc, place it on top of the spacer, finish welding it up, and there's our giant brake disc. This thing will be able to stop it. I know that for 100% fact, but that's kind of the way I want to go. If it doesn't work out that way, we're just going to weld that piece of pipe straight onto here just so that it's, you know, easier. But this allows the weld to have a entire 8-inch radius versus like a 2-inch radius like that one is right there. It gives the caliper a lot more area to bite onto. This is a huge difference compared to our little 5 inches right here. After cleaning this off and measuring it out, I found out that we need to do a 1-inch 2905. I'm gonna bring it over to this little piece right here, and then I'll get it cut out. I'm hoping that this is gonna cut it a lot flatter than I could with just a grinder. So I'm gonna cut it out using this. I'm gonna have to rotate the piece, and then if it works, then awesome. That'll save me a bunch of time, but if it doesn't, then we're just gonna have to use the old grinder. And don't do this part at home. I'm just kind of stupid and need to get this done. Piece cut out, and there's a little bit of a dip. It starts about right here, it goes very slowly down to that piece. It's barely off. It's not going to really hinder anything. I'll just bevel it, weld it up, fill it, make sure it's all flat. But the reason that had happened was because I kept rotating it for like the first 2 turns, and that was just slightly getting it off. But what I did instead is I notched each and every corner where the little chop saw needed to be, and that kept it perfect throughout the entire rest of it. So I'm gonna grind it down, bevel it, make sure it's all nice, and then we'll weld it on there. Go to the pipeline after this. Damn, that thing is clean. Ow, don't touch it. Damn, that thing is clean. I touched it again. Anyways, now that that's done, all we need to do now is just get this piece cleaned up, weld them together, and then take it over there and weld it up. Now we're just gonna give a little tack weld on the inside of this, making sure that everything is perfectly center with this. And then we'll grab our little brake disc, place it over top, and there's our disc brakes. Genius idiot, I forgot that we should weld it onto here before we weld it onto here. But I was so worried about it being absolutely perfect through here, which it is, that I started welding. And now, I barely got enough room to get into here. So, wish me luck. She looking good, and all we need to do now is just weld a big old bracket right here. That's also a gusset. I wanted to gusset this anyway, so it makes it perfect. But, damn, it looks good. I mean, these brakes are huge, and I can actually test it. And I put it right here up against this little piece and bit down on it. Nothing. There was no movement. I was grabbing it with both hands trying to move it. There was nothing. I got to get the real angle of this, but this is basically what this piece is going to look like. So obviously this is going to be a lot longer because the gusset has to be a lot longer, but this is kind of the basis. I just got to get the exact angle of where it needs to be. These are just scrap pieces I had. Once I figure it out, they'll be their own separate pieces, and then they'll look a lot nicer. So I was going to use this piece to build the gusset off of, but I'm just looking at how thick that thing is, and that's just kind of excessive. I'm all for excessive, but this is just way too much. It would probably do more harm than it would good. Go down to the steel yard tomorrow and just grab a piece that's a little less thick than this, just so that we can not be way overkill on this thing, and then we'll get her welded up. I would love to take you guys through this exact process with me right now, but it is almost midnight and I haven't even started. I just got back from the steel yard grabbing my extra metal. And here's how we're gonna do this though. Put you guys down. You guys are gonna come back when I'm done. Ready? Why did I think this was gonna work? Nah, I'm only messing around. It works perfectly, actually. Watch this. Like I said, I don't care how long it takes. I don't care how insane I go. I don't care how late I have to stay up. I'm gonna get this thing to Sema. I do not care. But we're gonna get this done, and I think tomorrow the drive shaft is supposed to be done. Remember when I said the differential is going to be done? It is, look at it. I mean, it's pretty big. We got to chop it down about 1 inch, and then we got to move the rear differential about 3 inches backwards. But this is as small as they could get it with how powerful this engine is. So there's nothing really that they could do. I mean, the guys did an amazing job. It looks amazing. It feels amazing. Now, all we need to do is just get the clutch bolted in there, have this piece bolted up, and we can technically do a burnout in this thing. But there's a big piece missing on that, and there's no seat. But look over there. Some guys knew who I was off of TikTok, and they said that they wanted to come see this thing, and I wanted a seat. So they were like, dude, I will deliver that thing for you. Shout out to them boys. Generational Debt Racing. Bringing it down to me so that I could actually kind of finish a video tonight, because otherwise I would have had to drive over an hour to go get the seat. But this is where I'm going to leave it from here. I appreciate every single one of you. And stay freaky.